Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello everyone, and nice to meet you here in this brief presentation about the rise and fall of the PMO. My name is Bayhas Sawady, and I am the founder and the CEO of Crossover Management Consultancy, a management consultancy boutique firm established in Bahrain and providing services all over the MENA region. First of all, allow me to start introducing myself. I have more of 17 years of experience in project management and project management offices as a consultant, practitioner, trainer, speaker, and author. Started my career as an IT professional in 2000. Then I moved on to project management in 2003. In 2006, I obtained the PMP credential, and from that time until today, I was involved in so many projects concerning providing project management, consultancy, and managing projects all over the Middle East and MENA region. I was part of the team responsible for establishing PMOs in different organizations and different companies. And today I would like actually to share with you the experience that I have gained through the 10, probably 15 years working as a project manager and a project management consultant, as well as a PMO consultant. Although based in Bahrain, but I've been traveling all the Middle East and the MENA region for the past 10 years. So I was exposed to different cultures, different people, and different maturity levels of organizations. Currently, I hold the PFMP Portfolio Management Professional, as well as other PMI credentials like the Agile Certified Practitioner, the Risk Management Professional, and I'm also a PMO Certified Practitioner from Global Alliance. In this session, I would like to introduce you to the following: how and why PMOs became trend so quickly, how PMOs actually have risen so quickly over the 10 years, and at the same time, they also have fallen very quickly in so many organizations. The implementation of the PMOs was actually for so many organizations was a hassle, and the objectives that the PMO was set to achieve were not achieved, and that has led so many projects concerning the PMO establishing to fail. I would like also to introduce you to why or what are the reasons for those projects to fail, and I would like to introduce that by explaining more about the value of the PMO. So what's the value of the PMO and how is that related to the success or failure of the PMO, as well as trying to indicate the critical success factors for establishing the PMO. So here we go. Let's start by some initial notes. First of all, I would like to indicate that the information and the ideas that I'll be extending here are based on my personal observation and experience working as a professional throughout the Middle East and North Africa region, working in different organizations, different companies, different teams, providing consultation in project management and project management offices. I tried actually in a very tight time slot to get my hands on quality researches that would help me actually establish my observations, but I couldn't get my hands on them on quality researches made in the MENA region specifically to support my observations. So anyways, again, that's why I would like to indicate again that all the information and all the observations that I'm indicating here are my personal experience actually. At the same time, I would encourage all of you please to add any comments or just provide any feedback that you think would add value to the presentation, either by directly writing to me or by commenting here, so we can make this even a better presentation and probably provide better insights into why so many PMOs fail and while other PMOs succeed. So let's start with the definition. What is a PMO? Now, this term has been used actually widely and in different meanings. You will hear it as an abbreviation for a project management office. Sometimes you will hear it as an abbreviation for a program management office. And even at other times, you would hear it as a portfolio management office abbreviation. Actually, what happened is that there were actually no standard definition of the PMO, and different organizations have understood PMOs differently with different expectations, and that's why in so many cases we have witnessed organizations have their own or build their own definition of what a PMO is and what is supposed to be doing and what are the expectations of the PMO. And that's why I would actually say that PMO means a lot of things to a lot of organizations. There is no unified of what a PMO is or how a PMO should operate or what a PMO should deliver, other than the general expectations that I'm gonna just indicate later on. So basically you would find organizations defining PMO as a project management office that is established in order to take care of a certain project, and when the project finishes, the PMO would dissolve and the people working the PMO would go back to their departments. In other organizations, the PMO is a department or a function in the organization that's responsible for overseeing projects in all over the organization. Other organizations have dealt with PMO or have created their PMO only to take care of their external projects when they actually provide projects for external clients, and that was the role of the PMO, is to take care of the projects that these organizations were providing to clients, but nothing when it comes to internal projects that are linked to the strategy and the strategic objectives of the organization. So basically, different organizations, different PMOs, different roles, different expectations. There is no one size fits all PMO definition as by my observation working throughout the region. Now, when I started working in a PMO back in 2006, it was a completely new concept for me. At that time, I didn't know exactly what a PMO is, and when I was invited to work in a PMO, it was kind of the first time that I've heard of that term. And out of the sudden, in the following years throughout the region, a PMO has become a very trendy term, and a lot of organizations were actually trying to implement it as a function with within their operation. Now, my observation is that a lot of those big organizations, they took that as a prestigious function that they should be adding to their operations, or a trend that needed to be followed. It's like kind of a new management thing that we need to incorporate in our operations, and it was supposed to add value, even though they were not actually sure of the value that the PMO was supposed to deliver. While basically I found out that other SMEs took it more seriously, since it actually required a considerable investment of time and money in order to create a PMO. So they were trying even more harder than big organizations to understand what a PMO is and what is it supposed to deliver. And that's why I would say that the SMEs were fairly better than the big organizations in understanding and implementing, and even of in getting more value of the PMO than the big organizations. And that's why I actually found out that and again, according to my personal observations, that PMOs implementations in big organizations tend to fail more likely than PMOs in the SMEs. Now, what's the top management expectations from the PMO usually? When we actually came to the top management and introduced to them the PMO and tried to convince them of the value of the PMO, there were common expectations communicated to us by the top management. I would summarize those expectations in mainly 4 points. the top management wanted the PMO to standardize the project management practice throughout the organization by creating a unified methodology, including the policies, procedures, workflows, templates, and so on. So this was like their first expectations. The other expectation was that by establishing the PMO, we should be cutting cost and time for projects that we are supposed to be delivering. The third expectation was that the PMOs were supposed to monitor and control projects and project delivery throughout the organization. And the fourth expectation was that the PMO should be improving the customer satisfaction. And by the customer satisfaction, we mean the external and the internal customers or project owners that actually have expectations in terms of the projects that were being delivered. Now, again, when we approached those organizations or the top management of those organizations, we needed actually to convey to them the value of the PMO. And for that reason, we need to define actually what the value of the PMO is. Now, if you go back to the basic definition of the value of anything, then it should be the benefits minus the cost, the benefits of that thing minus the cost of that thing. So basically, when we talk about the PMO value, then the value of the PMO is basically the benefits of the PMO, and take out of that the cost of implementing the PMO. Now, how do we define the benefits of the PMO? Then this is actually the tricky thing, because benefits can be actually hard to measure, and benefits are basically driven by the expectations that the top management set. So in order to measure those benefits, we needed actually to dig more into the expectations of the top management, and that's why I refer to those expectations or summarize them by the 4 points that I mentioned earlier. So this is where actually benefits should be gathered and measured and then compared with the cost of setting up the PMO in order to prove that the value of the PMO is actually greater than zero, and benefits are or should be much more than the cost incurred in setting up those PMOs. Now, actually, this formula is a little bit, difficult to prove. Why? Because cost is obvious, and cost is actually something that should be thoroughly considered. It's not like a small number. It's actually, there's a lot of cost to be incurred when an organization considers setting up a PMO. And those costs are usually grouped into the following: a consulting and training cost for basically providing the best PMO to the organization that fits their needs, that fits their industry, that fits their kind of projects that they're delivering, and you need to train their team on that. There's the cost of team selection and recruitment, because most probably they don't have like a ready team that you can incorporate in the PMO. So basically they will end up by recruiting those team, and again, as a consulting company, it might be our role to help them in there, and that again incurs more cost. The PMIS selection and implementation. Now, PMO definitely will need a project management information system that would help actually unify and streamline the processes of the project management practice, and a PMIS basically should be purchased, and that again adds to the cost. And the knowledge transfer, the cost of knowledge transfer from the consulting team to the project management office team that were recruited or selected. So basically, it's very easy, it's very viable to the top management what the cost is, or what the cost is supposed to be of implementing a PMO. And it's not a small cost, it's actually a large cost most of the time. It's a big cost, and it's a very viable cost for the top management. While on the other side, the benefits of setting up that PMO is hard to measure, hard to define. And here's the tricky thing, and here is why so many organizations stop at that point, and they decide not to go with the PMO. So basically, it's one of the most important role for any consulting company is to consider this formula and focus on maximizing the benefits, defining, measuring, and maximizing the benefits of the PMO. So if you ask me now why so many PMOs fail, the answer is very simple. So many PMOs have fallen because of the very same reason that I've just mentioned, which is the cost was proven to be greater than the benefits that the PMO has brought to the organization. So basically, when the top management saw that the cost was greater, much greater probably than the benefits that the PMO is bringing to the organization, they took a decision of stopping the PMO or completely getting rid of the PMO and the function itself. So again, that was the case in so many organizations that I've come to know about, and it's really simple. The top management will definitely take the decision of stopping the PMO function when they notice that the cost, which is again very viable and very clear to the top management, is more than the benefits that the PMO is bringing to the organization. And that leads us to define the guidelines that you should be considering in order for your PMO to be a successful function in the organization. So first of all, you need to know that most of the time the cost of PMO implementation cannot be reduced because again, it's necessary, it's viable, it's important, so you cannot really cut cost here and there. And if you can, then it would be a very minimum thing. While benefits, on the other hand, this is your variable that you should be focusing on. So you should be focusing on maximizing those benefits and bringing those benefits to the attention of the top management. So basically you need to focus on the benefits, not on the cost, because the cost is variable. Everyone can see the cost, but not everyone can see or feel or measure the benefits of implementing the PMO. The second point is that when you start designing the PMO, you should start by setting, understanding, defining the expectations of the key stakeholders, because benefits of the PMO is again driven by the expectations of the key stakeholders or the top management specifically. So if you don't really understand their expectations, you cannot really focus on maximizing the benefits as we mentioned in the first point. So in order to maximize the benefits, you first need to start with the expectations, to understand, to define those expectations and set the benefits based on those expectations. So, and in order for that, you need really to understand well your stakeholders, your key stakeholders and top management specifically. So where they are coming from, what are their expectations when it comes to project management, project delivery, and so on. And you need to do that carefully. You need to spend more time on understanding those expectations. The fourth point is that you need to manage these expectations well. If any of those expectations were not properly made or don't align with the strategy, for example, of the organization, then you should help those stakeholders change or alternate these expectations in order to come up with the proper expectations. And you need to do that, of course, carefully, because again, those key stakeholders or those people in the top management, you need to be very careful when dealing with their expectations. So you need to be very clear on why some of these expectations are not aligned with the strategy, or why they should not be actually considered as expectations, why they don't fall in the expectations of what a PMO should be doing, and so on. The fifth point is that when you start your PMO implementation project, you should be focusing on both short and long-term wins, and that's actually one of the agile management principles, which is to focus on early and continuous delivery of value. Remember that your key stakeholders, the top management, is expecting a lot out of the PMO, and they're expecting to see something soon. So basically, if they don't see the benefit, if they don't see the value soon, then they will start questioning the value of the PMO, and that's why you need to focus on the quick wins, how the PMO can quickly fix some common issues in the organization, and at the same time you design it for also long-term wins, for maximizing efficiency throughout the organization on the long term. The sixth point is that you need to set clear metrics and measures for the expectations and report them frequently. The expectations that have been set and articulated by the stakeholders, by the top management, should be clearly, again, articulated, should be measured clearly, and should be reported frequently, because you need to prove to the top management and to the key stakeholders that their expectations are being met, and they are being met early and continuously, and you should communicate that all the time in order to gain their buy-in and in order to gain their support throughout this journey. And the next important thing is that you need also to measure and report the return of investment frequently as well. Remember that setting up a PMO requires a big deal of investment, and the top management will always question the return of investment, and that's why you need actually to measure it, report it frequently, and have always a solid case that the PMO is bringing to the organization more than what it's taking from the organization. And the last point that you need to keep in mind is that you should be always focusing on continuous improvement and find new ways for the PMO to improve over time and improve efficiency in project management. It's not like a destination, it's kind of continuous journey that you need to follow all the way in search of perfection, in search of excellence in project management. Having explained the guidelines for setting up and operating a PMO, there are 4 critical success factors, I believe, that should be there in order for your PMO setup and operation to be successful. First of all, this endeavor should be empowered and sponsored, highly sponsored actually, by the top management. So basically you would try to get the higher level of sponsorship that you can get from your management in order to make sure that this project, the project of setting up a PMO, will be a successful project, and the operations that follow that as well. This requires a lot of support, a lot of engagement from the top management. Again, a high level of sponsorship should be there in order for the project to be successful. The second thing that should be available is a proper maturity level in the organization. You cannot really try to implement a PMO in an organization that doesn't have the proper maturity level. There should be at least clear processes. There should be at least a minimum understanding of what a PMO should be doing and what a PMO is supposed to deliver and to do. And there should be an understanding of the value that a PMO can bring to the organization. And the more maturity level that the organization has, the more chances that this project of PMO setting up and implementation will be a successful project. The third thing I believe in is that those people who are responsible for setting up and operating the PMO should be agile in a way that they should be able to respond quickly to the changing requirements of the end users, of the stakeholders and all stakeholders of the PMO. So there should be a kind of focus on what are the users' requirements, and there should be an evolving PMO that focuses all the time on the value and the expectations that the stakeholders are showing and are requiring for their projects and for the project management in the organization. The fourth element is that the team responsible for setting up and implementing the PMO should also be a competent team with high competency, high level of skills, and that they understand fully what PMO is and how to deliver what a PMO is, and how to manage the stakeholders' expectations, how to define the value, how to transfer the expectations or translate the expectations into benefits that the PMO should be delivering on the short and the long run of the operation. All of these four elements are necessary for the PMO implementation project to be successful, as well as operating the PMO on the long run. With this, I would like to conclude this presentation and thank the PMO Global Alliance for allowing me this opportunity in order to present what I believe a critical factor of a successful PMO setup and delivery. Please feel free to contact me anytime for feedback, for comments. I would definitely encourage everyone to contribute to this subject and to add value to it, and to create a network of PMO interested people where we share knowledge and experience. Thanks again, and looking forward to more presentations about the PMO. Goodbye.